White judge finds black woman, only to learn she's a national spokesperson. Part 1. The Unexpected Hearing. The Manchester courthouse buzzed with morning activity. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, casting long shadows across polished marble floors. People moved quickly, their footsteps echoing against the historic walls that had witnessed countless stories of justice. Emma Roberts stood quietly in the courtroom, her navy blue blazer pressed perfectly, her posture reflecting years of professional training. She was 35 years old, a community leader who had dedicated her life to helping people understand their rights. Her dark skin and confident demeanor made her stand out among the sea of bureaucratic faces. Judge William Hartley sat behind the large, wooden bench, his silver-streaked hair neatly combed, his glasses perched on the edge of his nose. He had been a judge for over 2 decades, known for his strict interpretation of the law. His reputation preceded him, fair but unbending, a man who believed rules were meant to be followed without question. The case seemed simple. A parking violation, a missed meter payment, something that happened to hundreds of people every single day in the city. Emma had received a ticket for parking 3 minutes over the allowed time outside a community center where she had been meeting with local youth leaders. Ms. Roberts, Judge Hartley's voice cut through the quiet courtroom, the documentation clearly shows you violated parking regulations. The fine is $350, no exceptions. Most people would have simply paid the fine and moved on, but Emma was not most people. She understood the system, knew its intricacies, and believed in challenging unfair practices. Your Honor, she responded, her voice calm and steady. I'd like to explain the circumstances of that day. Judge Hartley raised an eyebrow. He had heard countless excuses over his years on the bench. People always had reasons, stories, explanations. But rules were rules. Emma began to speak. She explained how she had been meeting with a group of underprivileged teenagers, discussing scholarship opportunities and career guidance. The meeting had run slightly over, and in her commitment to helping these young people, she had momentarily forgotten about the parking meter. Her explanation was clear, honest, and delivered with a professionalism that caught the judge's attention. But rules were rules, and he had heard similar stories before. Ms. Roberts, he said firmly, while your work sounds admirable, the law does not make exceptions based on good intentions. The fine stands. The courtroom was silent. Emma nodded, her dignity intact. She understood that today was not the day for a full explanation, but something in her eyes suggested this was not the end of the story. As she gathered her documents, Judge Hartley couldn't help but notice her composure. Unlike many who appeared before him, she showed no anger, no frustration, just a quiet, determined acceptance. Little did he know that this moment would become a turning point. The $350 fine was more than just a financial penalty. It was about to become a catalyst for a much larger conversation about justice, perception, and understanding. Outside the courthouse, the city continued its daily rhythm. People walked past, unaware that a small moment of judicial interaction was about to spark something significant. Emma Roberts walked down the courthouse steps, her professional demeanor unchanged, her spirit unbroken. The sun continued to shine, casting its warm light on a day that seemed ordinary but was about to become extraordinary. In that moment, neither Emma nor Judge Hartley realized how their paths were about to intersect in ways neither could have predicted. A simple parking ticket was about to become a journey of mutual understanding, challenging preconceptions, and discovering the true meaning of justice. The story was just beginning. The end white judge finds black woman, only to learn she's a national. Spokesperson Part 2. Unexpected Connections. The letter arrived 3 weeks after the courthouse hearing. Judge William Hartley's secretary placed it on his desk, a crisp white envelope with an official letterhead that caught his immediate attention. His fingers carefully opened the envelope, revealing a document that would change everything he thought he knew about Emma Roberts. The letterhead belonged to the National Community Development Foundation, an organization he had heard about but never fully understood. As he read, his perspective began to shift. Emma Roberts was not just another person who had received a parking ticket. She was a national spokesperson, a woman whose work had transformed countless lives across the United Kingdom. The letter detailed her remarkable achievements. She had created scholarship programs for underprivileged students in inner-city neighborhoods. Her legal aid initiatives had helped hundreds of families navigate complex legal challenges. She had developed mentorship programs that connected young people from disadvantaged backgrounds with professional networks. Each paragraph revealed another layer of her commitment. Judge Hartley remembered the brief encounter in the courtroom. How calm she had been, how professional. He had seen her as just another person breaking a simple parking rule. Now he understood she was so much more. His office felt different that afternoon. The sunlight streaming through the window seemed to illuminate the letter, each word a testament to Emma's dedication. He thought about the $350 fine, a sum that seemed so significant in that moment, now feeling utterly insignificant compared to her larger contributions. Colleagues who knew Hartley understood he was not a man who changed easily. He had built a reputation for being strict, unbending, someone who followed rules without question. But something about Emma's story was breaking through his carefully constructed professional facade. He began making phone calls, discreetly verifying the information. Each conversation confirmed what the letter had stated. Emma Roberts was not just a community leader. She was a national treasure, someone who had dedicated her entire professional life to creating opportunities for others. The more he learned, the more uncomfortable he became with their previous interaction. He remembered how quickly he had dismissed her explanation about the parking meter, how firmly he had insisted on the fine. Now those memories felt different, tinged with a sense of regret. In the quiet of his office, surrounded by legal books and decades of judicial experience, Judge Hartley realized something profound. The law was not just about rules and regulations. It was about understanding human stories, about recognizing the context behind each interaction. Emma's work went beyond legal boundaries. She was healing communities, bridging gaps that seemed impossible to cross. Her approach was systematic yet deeply compassionate, exactly what the justice system needed but often forgot. He thought about the young people she mentored, the families she had helped, the systemic barriers she continuously challenged. Each story was a thread in a larger tapestry of social transformation. The letter remained on his desk, a silent reminder of a world far more complex than the narrow view he had maintained for years. Judge Hartley was not a man who admitted mistakes easily. But today, something was changing. Outside his office window, the city continued its rhythm. People walked past, unaware that a simple letter was about to spark a significant transformation in one judge's understanding of justice. As evening approached, he made a decision. He would reach out to Emma Roberts, not as a judge, but as someone who wanted to understand, to learn, to grow. The $350 parking fine now seemed like a small, almost insignificant moment. It was about to become the beginning of something much larger, a journey of mutual understanding, respect, and genuine human connection. The story was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning to unfold. The end white judge finds black woman, only to learn. She's a national spokesperson, Part 3, The Revelation. The Manchester Conference Centre buzzed with energy. Hundreds of professionals from across the country had gathered for the annual Community Leadership Summit. Bright lights illuminated the stage, and the room hummed with anticipation. Judge William Hartley stood at the back of the large conference hall, his hands nervously adjusting his tie. He had attended countless professional events, but today felt different. Today he was here to listen, not to judge. Emma Roberts stepped onto the stage, her presence commanding immediate attention. She wore a deep blue suit that spoke of professionalism, her posture confident and strong. The audience fell silent, sensing something special was about to happen. Her speech began softly, almost like a conversation. She spoke about systemic challenges, about the gaps in social support that left so many young people struggling. But there was no anger in her words, only a deep, compassionate understanding that seemed to touch everyone in the room. Hartley watched, mesmerized. This was the same woman he had fined just weeks ago, the same person he had dismissed with a simple bureaucratic gesture. Now she was transforming an entire room with her words. Emma shared stories of young people she had helped, a teenager who became the first in his family to attend university, a single mother who found legal support to fight for her rights. Each story was a testament to resilience, to the power of human connection. Her voice carried a unique power, not demanding, but inviting. She spoke about justice not as a punishment, but as an opportunity for growth and understanding. The audience hung on every word, their perspectives shifting with each sentence. Halfway through her presentation, Emma spoke about the importance of seeing beyond surface-level interactions. She described moments when a simple act of kindness could change an entire life trajectory. Hartley felt a sudden, uncomfortable recognition. As her speech concluded, the audience erupted in applause. People stood, their appreciation genuine and heartfelt. Emma stood on the stage, humble despite the standing ovation. During the break, Hartley found himself moving closer. His years of judicial restraint battled with a newfound sense of curiosity. He wanted to understand, to apologize, to learn. "Ms. Roberts," he said, approaching her with careful steps. Emma turned, recognizing him immediately. Her eyes held no anger, no judgment, just a calm, professional understanding that made Hartley feel both small and inspired. "Judge Hartley," she responded, her voice warm. Their conversation was brief but transformative. Hartley spoke about the letter he had received, about how her work had opened his eyes to a broader understanding of justice. Emma listened, her response measured and kind. "It's not about proving a point," she told him. "It's about creating opportunities. Every interaction is a chance to understand, to help." The conference hall continued to buzz around them. Other professionals moved past, unaware of the significant moment happening between a judge who was learning to see differently and a community leader who understood the true meaning of justice. As the day progressed, Hartley found himself seeing the world differently. The rigid lines he had drawn throughout his career began to blur, replaced by a more nuanced understanding of human experience. The parking fine that had started this journey now seemed like a distant memory, something small and insignificant compared to the larger conversation about human dignity, opportunity, and understanding. Outside, the Manchester sky began to darken. Another day was ending, but something fundamental had changed. One interaction, one moment of genuine connection, had the power to transform perspectives. The story was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning to reveal its true potential. The end white judge finds black woman only to learn. She's a national spokesperson part. Transformation. The Manchester Judicial Training Center looked different that morning. Judge William Hartley stood before a group of young lawyers. His presentation materials spread across the podium. This was not a typical lecture. This was a moment of profound change. For decades, Hartley had been known as a strict, uncompromising judge. His reputation preceded him, a man who followed rules without question, who saw the law as a rigid set of instructions. But something had changed. "Context matters," he began, his voice carrying a new depth of understanding. "The law is not just about rules, it's about human stories." The young lawyers leaned forward, surprised. This was not the Judge Hartley they had heard about. This was someone transformed, someone willing to show vulnerability. He spoke about Emma Roberts, not by name but through her impact. He shared stories of community work, of understanding beyond the surface. Each word was a carefully crafted lesson about compassion and true justice. In the back of the room, a senior lawyer watched with quiet amazement. Hartley was rewriting his own professional narrative, challenging years of rigid thinking. During the break, young lawyers surrounded him. They asked questions, shared their own experiences. Hartley listened, really listened, in a way he never had before. His transformation wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal. The $350 parking fine that had once seemed so important now represented something entirely different, a moment of personal growth, of understanding. He began mentoring young lawyers, encouraging them to see beyond paperwork. Look at the person, he would say. Understand their story. Justice is not about punishment, it's about opportunity. Word spread quickly. Other judges began to take notice. Hartley's approach was radical yet simple. Treat each case as a human story, not just a legal problem. Emma Roberts' influence continued to ripple through his professional life. He had not just changed his perspective, he had reimagined what justice could look like. Local community centers invited him to speak. Law schools requested his insights. The man who was once known for his strictness was now celebrated for his compassion. During one community meeting, he shared his own journey of transformation. I was wrong, he admitted publicly. I missed the human element of justice for too long. Young lawyers began to see him as a mentor, not just a judge. His willingness to admit mistakes, to grow, to change became his most powerful lesson. The judicial system, often criticized for being cold and detached, was slowly changing. And it had started with one simple interaction, one parking fine, one moment of potential connection. Hartley's colleagues watched with a mixture of surprise and respect. Some were skeptical, others were inspired. But no one could deny the genuine transformation happening before their eyes. He started a mentorship program for young lawyers from disadvantaged backgrounds. He worked with community organizations to create pathways for understanding. Each initiative was a tribute to the lesson he had learned from Emma Roberts. During a national judicial conference, he was invited to speak about transformative justice. His presentation was not about legal technicalities. It was about human connection, about seeing beyond surface-level interactions. The audience listened in complete silence. Here was a senior judge admitting his past limitations, showing a path to a more compassionate approach to law. Outside the conference center, the city continued its rhythm. People walked past, unaware of the significant shift happening within the judicial system. But something had changed. One interaction, one moment of genuine understanding had the power to transform not just an individual but an entire system. The parking fine that had started this journey was now a distant memory. What remained was a powerful story of personal growth, of understanding, of the true meaning of justice. The story was continuing to unfold, its potential limitless. The end white. Judge finds black woman, only to learn. She's a national spokesperson, Part 5, Redemption and Hope. The National Legal Conference was different that year. Something electric filled the air, a sense of possibility that hadn't existed before. Judge William Hartley stood on the main stage, his hands slightly trembling as he prepared to speak. Beside him stood Emma Roberts, a symbol of everything he had learned about true justice. The audience watched in silent anticipation, sensing something extraordinary was about to happen. I was wrong, Hartley began, his voice clear and honest. For years I saw the law as a set of rules. I missed the most important thing, the human story behind each case. The conference hall was packed with lawyers, judges, and community leaders. Many had heard rumors about Hartley's transformation, but seeing was believing. Emma's presence was powerful. She wasn't there to condemn or criticize. She was there to demonstrate the possibility of understanding, of growth, of genuine human connection. Hartley shared the story of their first encounter, the parking ticket that had become a turning point. He spoke about how a simple interaction had changed his entire perspective on justice. His vulnerability was striking, unexpected from a man known for his stern approach. Justice isn't about punishment, he explained. It's about understanding. It's about creating opportunities for people to grow, to learn, to become their best selves. The audience listened, captivated. Some older judges looked uncomfortable. Younger lawyers leaned forward, inspired by this radical honesty. Emma spoke next. Her words were gentle but powerful. She talked about systemic barriers, about the importance of seeing beyond surface-level interactions. She shared stories of young people who had transformed their lives through support and understanding. Their partnership was unexpected. A senior judge and a community leader standing together and challenging the traditional understanding of justice. It was more than a speech. It was a movement. Local newspapers picked up the story. Television networks ran interviews. The conversation about justice was changing, becoming more human, more compassionate. Hartley's colleagues watched in amazement. The man they had known for decades was showing a side they had never seen before. Vulnerability, growth, genuine understanding. The 350 parking fine that had started their journey now seemed like a distant memory. It had become a symbol of something much larger, the potential for personal and systemic transformation. Over the next months, things began to change. Other judges started attending community workshops. Law schools introduced new programs focusing on empathy and understanding. The legal system was slowly, carefully evolving. Emma continued her community work. Hartley became a mentor for young lawyers, encouraging them to see beyond paperwork and understand human stories. Their partnership became a beacon of hope. During one community event, a young woman approached them. "You've shown me that justice isn't about punishment," she said. "It's about creating opportunities." Her words captured everything they had been working towards. The conference center buzzed with energy. People from different backgrounds, different experiences were talking, really talking, about justice, about understanding, about human potential. Outside, the Manchester sky was bright. The city continued its rhythm, unaware of the significant transformation happening within its legal system. But something had changed. One interaction, one moment of genuine connection, had the power to reshape entire systems, to challenge long-held beliefs, to create hope. Hartley looked at Emma, a quiet understanding passing between them. They had done something remarkable. They had shown that true justice was about connection, about seeing the humanity in each person. The story was not ending. It was just beginning. Their journey proved a simple, powerful truth. Understanding could transform everything. One conversation, one moment of genuine listening, one choice to see beyond the surface. Hope was not just a concept. It was a living, breathing possibility. The end.